Hello viewers, welcome to Hook Legends. Thanks for watching today's video. Guys, as always, I want to say a big shout out to all of our subscribers, and thanks to all of those who've been to the website and support the channel by purchasing Hook Legends jigs. It's because of you that I do this. So once again, thanks. Now, today's video, guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different. When I get feedback, whether it's, emails, messages, through Messenger or whatever, probably the most of the questions are regarding live scope. Probably second to that is equipment. Which rods and reels do I use? So today's video, I plan to come down here today. I'm on my dock down on Lake Tarquin, and I plan to come down here today and actually go out and do some fishing. But as always, many days I come down here and I don't actually get to even leave the dock and go out. Now there's a flagpole on this side of the lake, about 50 feet away from my dock. Has a flag on it. Flag's barely moving. There's one straight across the creek over there. I'm just guessing 200 yards, maybe 300 yards on the other side of this creek. And the two flags are about to get ripped off the pole. I can look out towards the middle of the lake, look straight down the creek that way, out towards the middle of the lake, and I see this white capping out there. So I just don't know if I want to go out there today in those tough conditions and try to fight the wind and catch some fish. So what I think I'm going to do today is I want to talk to you about something that I get a lot of questions about. I want to go over my rods. Even while I was preparing for this video, I looked at a message this morning, and a young lady said, "Hey, what do you like, short poles or long poles?" And my response to that was, hey, I let the fish determine that. So today I want to show you, I want to get more in depth into that, and I'm going to show you my rods and my setup. So we're going to break for just a moment to acknowledge our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Okay, so as I said before, guys, this morning before I left the house, I wanted to come down here and do a video. Looks like the wind condition is going to prevent me from doing that, at least getting out fishing. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I've been asked about my setup. So someone wanted to know what rods I use. Guys, if I had my preference, I'd probably using a 9 or 10 foot rod. I mean, if that's what it was, if it was really just left down to what I was going to fish with, maybe a 9 footer or a 10 footer. I absolutely fell in love with I believe it was the 10 foot or maybe the 11, I can't remember now, ACC. I have a lot of ACC, guys, so, but when we go into the summertime, and what I'm going to show you today is going to be a setup for wintertime fishing, okay, deep water fishing specifically. So, but to answer that question, guys, I like to use shorter rods. They're just a little bit easier to work with, but once you get some experience with some of the longer rods, it's really not that much different. Now, here is why you want to use a shorter rod versus a longer rod. Here in this particular lake, a thermocline is going to set up. Once that thermocline is set up, you can rule out a large portion of this lake. Fish are going to be up on some ledges. They may be down 15, 16, 17 feet, okay? You don't need much of a rod to get down to that depth, because if you're using a 10 foot rod and you hold it up and the rod comes down to the butt, your bait, when you hang the line down, comes to the butt of the rod. When you flip it out there, you put your rod tip just above the water, you're going to be about 10 feet down. So if you're in 14 foot of water and the fish are on brush piles, you're pretty much right there in the strike zone. The shorter rods, you can also kind of, pitch them out there to get you a little bit more distance in it. Now, the conditions where you're going to want to use a longer rod, I've seen it happen in this lake even in the summertime. Sometimes we'll go long periods of time without getting any rain, and the water will get pretty clear, at least clear for Lake Tarquin, which has a stain tint to it. So when that water is extremely clear, when you start approaching fish, I've seen these fish, when you get as close as 30 feet out, they'll scatter. They'll either scatter, go down, or move, okay? So it's pretty tough. The fish in this lake also tend to move around a lot, okay? So one of the things the long rod is going to allow you to do is going to allow you to, if you take a 16 foot rod and you hold it in there, let the line down, so the bait's right here to the butt, okay? Now you have 32 feet of reach, okay? If you flip it straight out, it's going to go out about 32 feet. Now in my particular boat, when I'm in my bass boat, I'm sitting about 6, maybe 7 foot back, okay? So you have to subtract that from it. So I'm going, most of the time I notice my jig actually hits the water somewhere around 22 feet, 20 to 22 feet, and then it starts dropping. As it drops, pendulum, I'm here, bait landed here. As it drops, it starts coming back in towards the boat, getting closer and closer and closer. So I like to actually, here in this particular lake, I like to pitch out, and I like to actually engage the fish at about 16 feet out from the boat. That gives me time when my line goes down to make adjustments. So let's say the fish is down 14 feet. I can get way out there, and I want that bait to come in somewhere around 12, because I try to keep the bait up above the head of the fish. Crappie feed looking up. I get very few bites. Whenever I make a mistake and let the bait get below their stomach, and they see it get below their stomach, I get very few bites after that. I think it makes the fish jittery. You have to remember that a crappie starts its life out as a small fish. It's basically bait. So it spends its early adulthood, early child lifetime being chased and fearing for its life by predator fish. So even though they're adults now, and there's much fewer predators, they still don't like things coming from beneath them up. They like to attack their food and their prey don't see it coming. Okay, so the 16-foot rod allows me to do that. Right here. Oh, he's going deep. That fish is going deep. Down about 16 foot, 28 feet out. That's a nice fish. That is a nice fish, folks. That is a nice fish. Where did he go? Bingo, folks. Pop goes the weasel. Look at there. That's how you lay into them, guys. That's how you lay into them. This is going to be a mighty fine fish. This is going to be a mighty fine fish. Hope I don't lose him. Don't want to lose him. Beautiful fish, folks. The 13-foot is what I'm going to be using mostly during the summertime, and I'll even pull out some in special conditions. You know, with a casting rod I can get out there. You know, I can stay back, cast out there 25, 30 feet. But today I'm going to show you two rods. Now here is one of my favorites. This is the ones that I fish with 9 to 10 months out of the year. This is my ACC Crappie Stick 13-foot crossover. I love this rod. I have it teamed up here with the Fishing 13 Black Betty reel. This reel is very light, maybe 4 ounces. Don't quote me on that, guys. I have to get the specific number for you, but maybe 6 ounces. But this is a very light reel. When paired up with this 13-foot crossover, it makes for a mighty fine rod. This is lightweight, guys. Look at there, 2 fingers. 2 fingers. Whoop, getting hung up on my dock over there, but look at that. I can manipulate this with just 2 fingers. So when I'm using this rod, whenever I go above an 11-foot rod, guys, now sometimes this rod is light enough I can still hand it, use a lot of wrist action. But when I start moving up to longer rods, a lot of times I grip the rod here and I put it under my elbow, and when I'm working that rod, I'm really using my bicep to lift that rod. I can shake it real easy by using my bicep. I use my bicep to manipulate that rod, but once again, it's light enough I can just use my wrist. Now this is once again the 13-foot ACC crossover. Got plenty of black bone. You get the fish up and away from the school of fish, guys. When you're fishing a school of fish, sometimes you're hooking a catfish, whatever. Catfish down here, we have catfish, stripers, whiteback. You never know what you're gonna hook. Okay, you want to be able to get that fish up and away from that school. I don't know if you ever noticed, but if you look on Live Scope, when you catch a fish in a school and that fish is down there acting all crazy, basically what he's doing is, I've seen the entire school of fish move away, guys. So I like to get my fish up and away as quickly as possible. Now, when I had rods that did not have as much backbone, pretty much the fish did what it wanted to do, and I just kind of had to wait until it played itself out to bring the fish in. But with these particular rods and reels, these particular rods and reels, they have enough backbone. My rod fell over, guys. I was trying to see what that sound was. You can get them up and away. Next one I want to show you is, this is my winter rig, guys. This is my winter rig. This is a 16-foot ACC trolling rod. Now, as far as backbone, it's not quite as stiff as the crossover, but definitely, I'll even put some clips out here, you know, after I get finished talking, to show you what this rod is capable of. This rod can definitely bring in crappie. Once again, when I'm fishing down here in Lake Tarquin, you know, you never know. Sometimes you're eyeing a crappie, you have your eyes on a crappie, and a white bass or a stripe or a catfish will just come out of nowhere and nail it. So I'm going to show you where, even just yesterday, I was able to get out for 45 minutes or so yesterday, and I was able to catch what's considered 2 Florida big catch qualifying white bass on these. Now, these rods are intended for crappie, but sometimes other fish hit, guys. But I'll show you a couple of clips where I caught some fish, just to give you an idea how durable and sturdy these rods are. Now, this particular rod, I have it equipped, and I'm going to show you how to tie this up and set it up in just a minute. But this particular reel, guys, is a Tatula SVTW 70. Now, this is an outstanding rod. This is what's considered a high-end rod. Tatula reel, not rod, reel. But now this is considered a high-end reel. The newer technology, guys, always just continues to amaze me. I was a bass fisherman. I used to be a bass fisherman, fish tournaments with bass, and I used bait casting reel. I never thought we would see the day when they had a bait caster that could cast a jig. Now, this particular setup, guys, I don't really cast. I just use it to store my line, and to hit a button and drop my line down. But I did play around with this out a little bit in the yard, just to make sure it did what I see the marketing says it does. And it does. I mean, you can actually cast jigs with this particular reel. But this is my summer rig here. My wintertime rig, 16 foot long, allows me to, as you can see, the eye is on underneath, because this is a spinning rod, guys. So I pretty much hold it like this. In rare circumstances, I'll even reach here when I want to get some reach on it, guys. And I think this reel also is about 4 ounces or maybe 6 ounces. I have to verify that for you. But even with one hand, I can sit there and work this rod pretty good. Most of the time, though, guys, I hold it in this position, or sometimes I'll hold it in this position just while I'm working it. But once you set the hook, it's designed to have the eyes down. So I usually catch the fish, play the fish in this position. And once again, I convert. When I'm going from rods less than 11 feet to greater than 11 feet, I go from wrist actioning, using my wrist to give action to it, to using my bicep. It makes a huge difference. I've talked to people that say, oh, I can't go to a long rod, I can't go to a long rod. Well, the thing about it is, your wrist will get worn out if you have a long rod. And it's not that the rod is heavy, it's the leverage factor. You have so much more sticking out on the other end. But all you need to do is make a simple adjustment. And lock it under your elbow. This big muscle coming through here, guys, can handle a lot more than the little muscles you have up here in your wrist. So I like to use my bicep when I'm using longer length rods. It just makes me, it just feels so much better. Okay, so once again, this is a 16 footer. I can reach out there 32 feet with it. Great rod. And this is my deep water rod. Now, here is wintertime. The water temperature has got down to about 51 degrees, if I remember correctly, when I checked it the other day. In this particular lake, when the water temperature gets down to 50, 51, 52, 53 degrees, these fish will push out in some of the deeper basins in the lake, out in the deeper water. So I saw very few fish shallower in the water column than 14 feet. The fish were in depths anywhere from about where the bottom was about 18 feet down to 40 feet in this lake. So you need to be able, you pull up on a fish, especially if you're live scoping, you pull up on a fish, you cast it out there. If you're using a short rod, by the time that rod bottoms out and come down, you're still going to be several feet up above the fish. You got to figure out then how to get it down there. Now, when you're out in this lake, wide open lake, the wind's pushing you all around, okay? The fish are not stationary. They are moving. Right now, they're not schooled up. I haven't seen any huge schools of fish down here in a while. Last year, they schooled up. The water temperature didn't get as cold. They schooled up in the large schools and they were moving around. You could pretty much get on the school and catch your limit within, I don't know, 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes. This year, I haven't seen those large schools. Individual fish, but you know, you wander around, you find a large fish, you drop a jig on them. The longer rods, in my opinion, help me to catch way more fish, because if I pitch out on a fish and I got the angle wrong when I put the bait out there, I simply lift it up and I put it right back out. You know, when you're casting and you miss it, you got to wind. Those extra seconds you spend winding that line in just so you can cast it back out, the fish is not sitting there waiting on you guys. They're not. The fish are going to be constantly moving. So the longer rods, when the fish are deep, allow you to pick up and to reapply the jig back into position. So I know I've talked a lot, I've said a lot. One final thing that I'd like to say, guys, is that my first ACC crappie stick was actually gifted to me. Okay, it was a gift, and I loved it so much I went out and I bought more of them. Now I am a disclaimer, I have to say that I am a ACC pro staff member. Okay, so I'm sponsored by ACC crappie sticks. I owned and I used crappie sticks before the sponsorship. These rods are just a natural fit for me. I mean, they're strong, the quality is very good, and they look good. So this particular reel was also gifted to me. It was given to me by my good friend, Coach Odell Higgins. He's a good friend and he's a great guy, you know, and I have to say thanks to Coach for gifting me this reel and this rod. You know, Coach Higgins has a passion for fishing just like I do, and we get out from time to time, and Coach has put me on some fish on several occasions, guys. So hopefully we're going to have him on the show so you can see him enjoying his passion for fishing just like you and I. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to show you how to tie up this rig. Okay, so we're going to jump in here now, and I'm going to cut off what I have, because it's the little core stopper I have is the rubber stopper. It's not real tight, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that off and put a new one on there. So I'm going to show you how to tie this rig up. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so I'm going to show you how to tie this up. First, I want to take you through the components that make up this. I moved got a little bit closer here to the camera. These are bobber stoppers, rubber bobber stoppers. You can pick them up from Bass Pro Shops. Hope we're getting a good shot of that. That's what once we put the lid on there, we're gonna show you a little rubber bead. Don't know if that's gonna show up either, but there's a little plastic bead. Hope you can see that little. If not, I'll put a picture up of one. But the first thing you want to have on your line is you want to put on one of these rubber stoppers, and that's gonna, so you can control how far up the line it goes. Then we're gonna put a bead on there. The bead's gonna keep it's gonna keep some separation between the piece of rubber you're putting on there and the actual lead. Now I want to talk about the lead, or the weight here, and this is the lead that I'm using. Hope you can get a good shot of that. So this lead, guide is actually, this lead, viewers, is made out of tungsten. Tungsten, I forgot, I don't know if it was 10 times. Ooh, God, this wind's getting kind of crazy down here. It's about to blow my beads away. Come on. I'm gonna have to put these somewhere. I'm gonna hold them in my hand for now. So, I need to put them somewhere where they won't roll off. But anyway, guys, I was talking about this wind is causing problems out here. My line's gone. But anyway, that lead I just showed you is made from tungsten. Tungsten is, I think, around 10 times, I believe it is, denser than steel. So what you can do is, it has a lower profile. Guys, I've actually had fish come up and chase the weight that I have on the line, pass right by the jig and go up and attack the weight. So I try to make my weight less visible. And by using tungsten, it's a smaller profile and heavier. Okay, that's the key. So most of the time down here in the winter time, when I'm out in water that's deeper than 15 or 16 feet, I like to use a 3/16 weight. 3/16. Now, the jig head that I like to use is a 1/32 or a 1/16. Most likely, most of the time, a 1/32. Because what I like to have is, I like for that lead to come down, and when the lead will come down faster than the jig. Jig's following behind it. And when I get 2 or 3 feet above the fish, I lift up on my rod tip, and that jig will whiplash and come down. So what the fish sees is the movement from the jig and not the weight. I don't let the weight get that close to the fish, but it allows me to get down in the water column fast. But then, say for example, if I lift it and drop it, the jig is in the strike zone, falling much slower. So I can still get that slow presentation. The weight's going to get me down fast, but then once I'm down to the level that I want, that jig is going to give me a slow presentation. When you're in extremely cold water, the fish aren't moving very fast. Sometimes they won't move very far to chase a bait. So you want to get your bait down and you want to keep it in the strike zone. Here for the past couple of weeks, I haven't been able to get a fish. I got very few fish that move a long distance to chase a bait. Most of the time, you got to put it within 6 to 8 inches, sometimes maybe 10 inches, right above their head, and just kind of leave it there and agitate them, or to convince them that that bait is weak and doesn't have the ability to move, so they don't have to get out there and waste energy chasing it down in this cooler water. So I just wanted to explain that, but I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to show you how to tie this up. Here, my line came back to me. So first things first, I need a lid to put this. Hopefully I can get it here and it won't blow off. Where can I put it? I'm gonna do this fast before it blows away. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a core stopper and I'm gonna put it on here. I'm gonna thread it through. Now sometimes wetting this helps. Mine got wet because the wind blew the line down in the water by the dock. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bobber stopper on there, guys. Got the bobber stopper on there. It's on there. Next, and you can see this will go real fast. These little beads, which you can get from Bass Pro and some other suppliers, thread the bead on there next. Next, your choice of weight. My preference, tungsten. Once you get that on there, next thing you want to do is your last bead. Glad to get this on there because I was afraid it was going to blow off. And then the next thing you're going to put on here is another bobber stopper. Guys, make sure you get some quality ones. I bought some in bulk. They weren't quality. Ones I get from Bass Pro Shop usually work pretty good. But I bought some off the internet. They weren't, the quality just wasn't as good, and it was sliding all over the place. You want something that's going to hold that tight when you're setting the hook and whatnot to keep it on there. So we pretty much have our basic rig. Okay. You got the bobber, stopper, you got the bead, you got the weight, a bead, and another bobber stopper. You can do what you want to do with the colors, guys. I don't plan for that to get close enough to a fish where the color is going to make a difference. Also, good point I need to bring up, this will help it show up. Those beads on there, those beads and that tungsten is going to reflect and give you a stronger signal than steel and other metals, lead. So it's going to be like it's glowing in the dark down there, and you'll see that in some of my video clips. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take this 1/16. Sometimes the guys, I have a hard time when I don't have them together determining whether it's 1/16 or 1/32. I think this is a 1/16. and I don't change them out that often. I gotta keep a pack of them right up going fishing. So I'm just gonna come in here now and get me plenty of line. I'm gonna make a loop now. 1, 2, need me a little bit more. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. Make a loop, run the bait through the loop. Now to keep that loop as close to the jig head as I pinch it right in the hole of the loop, still hold on to these 2 lines, pull it, and you can actually feel each one of those loops you put on there come through, guys. Look, perfect, perfect, that's it. So now we're gonna take this excess line, and I wore my clippers out. I'm gonna have to use my pliers to cut this, but cut the line off, and there we go. That's it. Now I like to have this probably about 20 inches up, guys, from my bait. Slide it up, and that's it. That is how you put together the rig. This is the rig that you've been seeing me using down here now for the past few weeks. 16 footer. Once again, Tartula reel. Let me show you something. I'm going to wind this reel up, and I'm just gonna see if I can control it a little bit. You see that? Okay. I'm gonna show you how. I want you to see how sensitive this reel is. Now that thing's bouncing all over the place, but don't know how to. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hold it to keep the line from bouncing around. But watch, guys. I'm just going to press that reel, press the button, and look, did you see how it drops? How it just drops down? So this reel can handle, even if it was just this jig on here, without that lid, still does the same thing. So guys, I want to go ahead now and wrap up. You know, once again, if you're going to be down here in Lake Tarquin, I encourage you to change your tactics, change your equipment as the season changes. You know, if the fish are in the pads, I plan to use this also in the spring. When the fish are up in the pads, I'm going to be using this long rod, and I'm going to be dipping in there. You come back, you definitely want to see that when it happens. But you know, there's going to be times when you want to use slip bobber rigs. There's going to be time when you want to cast jigs out and retrieve it back in. There's going to be times when you want something, you know, in the mid-range, maybe 10 to 13 feet when the fish are on structure, you know, when the water conditions are not as clear. But then there's going to be times when the water's more clear, and the fish want to stay pushed back away from you, well, you want a long rod. And there's going to be situations when the water is very deep, like in the wintertime, where the fish are hoping in deep water, where you want to use a longer rod to have access to those fish. So guys, I think I have never talked this much in a video, and hopefully, you know, the next videos will be right back to taking fish, sliding them over the gun wheel. You know, as always, I love taking them out the water and put them in the boat. But you know, I do get requests from time to time on my equipment, so I hope this meets your expectations. I hope you learned something. If you like these videos, you like the tips, do me a favor right now. Please reach up, click subscribe and like. Make sure you click the notification bell so you'll be alerted when future videos are released. Thanks for watching Hook Legend.